Hello, thanks for watching. The light is not the greatest here. I am trying to use my webcam on my laptop and see how that goes this week. So I'm going to continue on my grade 9 story. So when I first started high school, I went into what was my final foster home, and I gained four siblings and two parents overnight, which was extremely difficult. As I've talked about before, one of the biggest changes was food. It started to become a regular part of my life, even though it is still something that I struggle with today. They tried very hard to make sure that I had all the food that I needed when I lived there. Um, I first shared a room with Eileen, then I had my room upstairs, and I would remember nights where I would be very upset and crying really loudly, and my foster brother Jerry would be across the attic yelling down to his mom, asking his mom to get Char to stop crying. I battled depression from never knowing if my mom was going to come back. I didn't know if my mom was going to come back to fight for her rights to have me back. I was already 14. The Children's Aid Society tends to not put you into foster care the closer you get to 16, and they also, at least in my area, they try to reunite you with your family in every case possible as soon as possible. And because of my experience before, I totally knew this. So I asked my social worker to get a lawyer, and I got a really good lawyer. And I was very honest with her. And I told her that I did not want to go home to my mom because I wanted stability. I wanted to stay in one high school. I didn't want to continue to move around. I knew that the foster home that I was in wasn't necessarily ideal, but at least it would be stable so that I could start high school. And my mom didn't show up to court. And I had been in foster care for maybe, I don't know, 6 or 7 months, and my birthday came around, my 15th birthday. And I finally decided to ask my grandparents if I could have a phone number for where she was, because she had been talking to my grandparents every month and getting money from my grandparents, but not doing anything to get me back or to contact me. So I phoned her, and I still remember her asking me why I was calling. My 15th birthday was really hard to get through. I had a good group of friends at the time who threw a party for me with a Mortal Kombat cake, and we watched Carrie. So I don't know whose idea that was, but we got together at Adams, and I remember um, working with Melissa, and Sarah was there, and I don't know, there was a whole bunch of people there. Um, I stayed in that foster home until I was 16, and I didn't go back home. I moved out on my own. I had to work really hard to be able to prove that I could move out on my own. I was 15 when I asked. I was 15 when I took a cooking course. I took a self defense course. And I started buying my own groceries. And I had my own cupboard in the kitchen at my foster home. And I was in charge of a meal, something like that. I was in charge of my breakfasts, my lunches. Everything was workable. This was all not a punishment. This was to teach me to be self-sufficient. I did my laundry and chores, and I was 15 when I signed my first lease agreement, and I was 15 when I had to try to convince Hydro that I needed Hydro. I was a legitimate tenant in this place. Please give me Hydro. That was fun. Um, Children's Aid Society won't co-sign. How could they co-sign, right? So it was really hard to try to get that ball going, and um, pretty sure I had to pay some sort of a deposit. And yeah, anyway, so I got my first place. It was a beautiful one bedroom apartment. I had to work really hard to get there. And being in my last foster home, I could have stayed. I could have stayed until I was 18. They were very welcoming, and I'm sure they would have kept me for sure. But I really had difficulty integrating into another family, even though I didn't want to be with my mom, which was my family, because everything was so inconsistent and unstable. And the one thing that I knew was that I needed stability. And I think that I learned that from the time I'd spent with my grandparents, because every time I went there, year after year, every Tuesday was the same, every Wednesday was the same. Everything was organized and decluttered, and everything ran smoothly. And then I'd go home and it would be complete chaos. So I just wanted my space. I wanted to be able to take care of myself, and I wanted to try to control the chaos. And here I am, 37, with my own little chaos with my own couple of kids. But yeah, anyway, that's all for today. I will continue next week talking a little bit more about what it was like to have to move out at 16 in grade 10. And thanks for watching. Subscribe. If you want to see some of my, or yeah, if you want to read some of my thoughts or blog posts on empathy, narcissism, or resiliency, you can find me on Facebook under my name, Charlene April. And thanks for watching.